Good evening, everyone. Just a quick meeting this evening before we go into budget. Thank you all for accommodating a 5 o'clock start. I'll call this meeting to order at 5 p.m. by formally recognizing that we're meeting on Aboriginal lands that have been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. We respectfully acknowledge our responsibility to work toward right relations with our Indigenous partners and thank all of the generations of people who've taken care of this place for thousands of years. In particular, we acknowledge the proud heritage of our neighbors from the Alderville First Nation and the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte. We'll move into the business, moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon. The council approved the January 30th, 2023 special council meeting agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Members of council, do you have any declarations of pecuniary interest? And if so, please state the general nature thereof. There are none noted. Topic of tonight's special council meeting is specific to a few items coming out of the committee review team, specifically committees, Applefest Committee, Community Events Committee, Task Force to commemorate the 1973 tornado, Quinte Economic Development Commission, and Quinte Transit. This is a report of the committee review team, which I have presented to you. I have no additional remarks other than what we have drafted here. So the motion before me is moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Fredis, that council receive the report from the committee review team, and further that council endorses recommendations from the committee review team, and further that council directs staff to make changes to the terms of reference for the Applefest Committee, the Community Events and Civic Awards Committee, and the task force to commemorate the 1973 tornado. That's right. And report back to council and the committees with those changes. And further that council directs staff to advertise for community representatives for the Applefest Committee, the Community Events and Civic Awards Committee, the Quinte Economic Development Commission, and Quinte Transit. Is there any discussion, questions, or comments? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. We've already seen the report. We have no one in the gallery or on Zoom with any questions from the public. Taking us to our confirmatory bylaw, it's moved by Councillor Fredis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Corporation of the Municipality of Brighton Special Council meeting held on January 30th, 2023. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. And a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that the January 30th, 2023 special council meeting adjourn at 5:03 p.m. Is there any discussion? Beat that, Anderson. All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. Thank you, everybody.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight's Committee of the Whole meeting is, I'd like to call it to order at 6 p.m. But probably recognizing that we are meeting on the Aboriginal land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. We respectfully acknowledge that the municipality of Brighton is located on the Mississauga and is Nebec territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga. The Council of the Municipality of Brighton respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. I'm asked now for approval of tonight's agenda. What's that? Okay, I have the delegation. Oh, sorry, that's the delegation. Sorry. I didn't. I messed it up. Must be it. Okay, we found it, everybody. Okay, I have motions here from Emily Raleigh. Moved by Emily Raleigh and seconded by Jeff Weldon that the Committee of the Whole budget meeting be approved as presented. That doesn't sound right. Okay. And that's what we got. Carried. Okay. I'm sorry. Too much paper tonight. What's that?
All in favor.
All in favor.
That's carried.
That's carried. Yeah. Okay. So any I call on, is there any declarations of pecuniary interest and the general nature of thereof? Yes. Mayor, please go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Should any discussion come up with regard to the Hilton Cemetery, I'm a member of the Church Council for Trinity St. Andrews United Church, and Trinity St. Andrews is the owner operator of that cemetery.
Good, thank you. Anyone else have? Go ahead, Councilor.
Mr. Chair, I was on the fundraising committee for Sunny Days group program in 2022, and yes.
And Councilor Weldon, go ahead.
If we are discussing library board budget, my wife works at the library.
Thank you. Anyone else scared? No? Okay, none more. There's no other. Thank you. Now I'll call on delegations tonight. Our first delegation tonight is Rhonda Bateman, CAO of the Lower Trent Conservation Authority. Welcome, Rhonda. Nice to see you back.
Thank you.
You can go ahead.
I did not have time to make a presentation, but I'm here to answer any questions regarding our budget.
Well, we'll look for someone first to start that off. Thank you. And the mayor has a question.
Just a very general question, CA.
To you through the deputy mayor. At this point, we're not sure. So we still have planning responsibilities. So we've spoken, luckily we've spoken to all our municipalities, and Mr. Castleman was on one of the calls and discussed how we are moving forward with our business, which isn't really changing much other than the natural heritage side of planning. We're still, all our regulations are still in place and our permitting is the same. We may see a drop. We're going in revenue, depending on the applications that come through. So we probably we'll lose a little bit of funds from the proponents at this point for planning, but we don't know the full extent of it. So our fees are frozen for 2023. And our budget revenue for planning and regulations, the board asked us to basically double what we had. So we were doing all this long before the changes to Bill 20, the recent change to Bill 23. So it's going to take us 6 to 8 months to see if there is any real repercussions. I have to say, with the amount of development happening across the watershed, that we are still going to be getting ample opportunity to comment on planning.
Anyone else have a question? I have one. Last year, you mentioned that funding was very slow coming from the province or whoever after going to tribunals, and that you had all these funds that weren't coming to you. I think it was $6,000-7,000 at one case. Is that still happening, or are you being left short because of things like that?
If I remember correctly, it's when we go to tribunals and that sort of thing, we don't get any money back. If there is a charge, it goes to the province. We don't see it. So that ends up, if we're in legislation, it comes out of our levy funds, unfortunately.
So it gets tighter and tighter.
Yes, and yeah. Because right now, we've had quite an increase in violations and compliance. So that that affects revenue for sure.
I'll ask a question. How about your staffing and how do you do all this? Are you able to carry the professionals that you need to deal with a lot of these, first of all, applications? It's important that we get the information and get it timely, I guess. And so how is that affecting you?
We haven't had any effect on our staffing yet. We still have all our professionals in place. There's a succession plan going on because we're having a retirement. But with the changes in the regulations, we're trying to foresee what's coming, and we will be changing things up a bit from the regulatory point of view to make sure we have enough regulation staff. The staff are stretched, especially with the violations.
Thank you for your answer. Anyone else? No? Well, thank you for your presentation.
No,
Thanks
was
for
the
coming
easiest
too. I appreciate that.
no problem.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, if you wanted me to come back once I create a presentation on changes because of Bill 23, I'm more than happy to do that.
Well, I think I can speak. I'll speak for myself, but I think we would all like you to come back and stay in touch with what's going on with this. So,
Will do.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. Absolutely.
Thanks, Mayor. So I have a. So I have a motion here from, sorry, delegation. Oh, from Mayor Ostrander, moved by Mayor Ostrander, seconded by Byron Paredes, to receive the report from Rhonda Bateman, CEO of Lower Trent Conservation Authority. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, we have another delegation joining us. Yes. Wendy Warner, Executive Director of Trent Memorial Hospital Foundation, and she's joining us by Zoom. Are you there, Wendy?
I am here.
Welcome.
Live and in person. Thank you very much, Councillor Ron, or I should say Deputy Mayor Ron. It's my pleasure to be here tonight. Again, tonight we've been very fortunate. We're very grateful to have received numerous donations from the municipality of Brighton. In fact, upwardly $940,000 to date has been granted to us for priority medical equipment. This year, once again, we are looking to support for two borescopes, an unusual piece of equipment for us to request, but a very critical piece of equipment. The borescopes, two borescopes cost about $21,703. And the borescopes are absolutely critical for the cleaning and sanitizing and disinfecting of the scopes that are used in our cystoscopy clinic. Our cystoscopy clinic is unique to Trenton Memorial Hospital. It is not available in any other hospital of Quinte Health. And the cystoscopy clinic sees anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 patients a year. And that's people coming from all over the catchment area. And as you all probably know, there's at least 60% of the population of Brighton utilize services at Trenton Memorial Hospital as well. The borescopes are critical to cleaning the cystoscopes and ureteroscopes. So the ureteroscopes are for the kidneys and the cystoscopes are for the bladder. And that clinic is absolutely essential to so many people in keeping their lives free from cancer, because they go for these types of scopes every 3 months, some of these people. So the borescopes are really important because they keep the wait times down, because we have 35 procedures a day, anywhere from 3 to 4 days, depending on how often the urologists are there. And at 35 a day, that means we need multiple scopes and multiple cleaning supplies, such as borescopes, to be able to ensure that we can sanitize between every patient and be able to move the people through as quickly as possible. So it helps reduce wait times, because it helps us also keep our equipment, which is very, very fragile, up to the standards without the need for repair, which also can cause wait times. So the borescopes are really important because they're very they detect any debris, any other kinds of bacteria or anything going through the scopes that's needed before it can be used for the safety of the patient. So we are requesting your support for two of those at a cost of $21,703. And we know this is slightly higher than the grant and aid proposed, but it's only slightly higher. And we're hoping that you will see your way to considering the two scopes, and certainly all the donor recognition that's appropriate would go along with that as well. So I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has any, but thank you very much again for the opportunity to apply for this grant.
Thank you for coming forward with that. Anyone on council have any questions for? Go ahead, Bobby.
Hi, could you clarify that final number for me? Because it's different than the one that I've got in front of me.
I was fearful of that. We did have a change. One of the pieces of equipment we were going to apply for ended up being switched out. The cost is truthfully $21,703, not $23,000 as on the original proposal in one of the places for the funding purpose.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The other thing, I'm just going to preempt a question that was asked before about staffing. The one thing that I can tell you that's very different or unique about our foundation is that we have a board restricted fund that covers all our staff operating costs. So none of the donations whatsoever, no admin fee, no percentage for operations goes towards our staffing whatsoever. So 100% of your grant goes to purchase those borescopes.
Well, that's good. Anyone else with a question? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us tonight, and we'll move on to we have a motion by Councillor Botwell and seconded by Mayor Ostrander to receive Wendy Warner's Executive Director, Trenton Memorial Hospital Foundation presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I need a motion. I need a vote, please. All in favor? Thank you. Carried. Thank you again, Wendy. All right.
My pleasure.
Yeah, there we go. So the next delegation is Abigail McQuillam. Now, I wanted to see if I said that right.
Pretty close. Macawam.
That was pretty close. All
Not
right.
bad.
Associate Director of the University Hospitals Kingston Foundation is here to give us a presentation. And go ahead, please.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen here. Great. Okay, well, thank you so much for having me at your council meeting today. Yes, my name is Abby Macawam. I'm the Associate Director of Healthcare Advancement at University Hospitals Kingston Foundation, and we are the fundraising arm for Kingston Health Sciences Centre and Providence Care. And together, these healthcare providers meet the complex needs of people living in small cities, towns, and rural areas across Southern Ontario, serving more than 500,000 people in our region who receive exceptional care across a broad range of services. And our mission at UHKF is to engage and inspire people to make investments essential to the exceptional healthcare provided by KHSC and Providence Care. UHKF currently supports a number of Kingston Health Sciences Centre's sites, which includes KGH for acute care, Hotel Dieu for ambulatory services, and the newly opened Breast Imaging Kingston Centre. We also support Providence Care, which includes the Hospital for Rehab, Palliative Care, and Mental Health, the Long-Term Care Manor, and now Hospice, which is a 10-bed center which is set to break ground this spring. As we consider the specialized services at KHSC, the critical care available might not be evident unless you or a loved one has experienced it firsthand. Your local hospitals are there to manage a variety of healthcare concerns. However, as the academic and acute care center for our entire region, Kingston Health Sciences Centre is providing an impressive network of specialized services. And for many, that means life-saving medical care. This includes the Regional Cancer Program, Regional Cardiac Program, Southeast Regional Trauma Network, Neurology and Neurosurgery Clinic, Regional Renal Program of Southeastern Ontario. And what this means is that the specialists from these programs in Kingston work with staff in the local hospitals to ensure protocols are in place for the residents in Brighton to access these critical services if and when they need them. So looking at how residents of Brighton are using the hospitals in Kingston, our data shows that in the last 5 years, there have been 26 babies from Brighton that have been cared for in the NICU. Not a huge number. However, the next closest facility that can care for these young and fragile patients is in Toronto or Ottawa. So depending on the length of stay in the NICU, travel costs could significantly impact those who must care for their infant, making Kingston a much more convenient option. Looking at last year, there were over 150 surgeries for Brighton residents. And if we look at all visits to the hospital from last year, we have over 1,800 visits. This is made up of visits coming from inpatient, outpatient, emergency, and cancer treatments. When we look at individual patient numbers, we see the primary reason for your residents to come to Kingston's hospitals is unfortunately for cancer treatment. It's clear that Quinte Healthcare and Northumberland Hills Hospital are doing an excellent job of managing patients' routine and some emergency healthcare needs. But when those needs become acute or highly specialized, Kingston Health Sciences Centre is there to provide that next level of care for the complex needs of your residents. For some time, there's been a myth that the government pays for all healthcare expenses inside the hospital. And I'd say with the state of healthcare today, that myth is being busted as we see the strain of our healthcare system at all levels. The hospital continues to be responsible for 100% of the cost of all equipment and 10% of any large infrastructure projects. The forecasted need at Kingston Health Sciences Centre is $400 million over the next 10 years, and this does not include any redevelopment plans for the KGH site. On that note, I must share that the major renovation of the KGH site that we've been working towards for some time now is on hold as we await further feedback from the Ministry of Health. As is common with many large-scale infrastructure projects right now, the cost escalations have exceeded what was initially budgeted, and we are considering all options for what is needed. In today's climate, the hospital faces significant challenges, primarily around complex patients and health human resources. This is shared by just about every hospital in our country. However, KHSC faces the additional challenge of significantly outdated facilities. In light of these challenges, and while we await more feedback from the Ministry of Health on the redevelopment, KHSC continues to deliver first-class care to the patients that rely on them. With updated and modernized facilities and continued investment in urgent capital upgrades, the potential opens up for expanded services and a reduction in backlog for those awaiting various procedures. As KHSC continues to invest in technology and innovation, they'll be positioned to draw from top specialists in Canada and beyond, which will help to expand the types of procedures that are available, allowing patients to stay local, saving them from traveling to larger cities like Toronto or Ottawa. At some point, every citizen in our region will require the assistance of Kingston's hospitals for themselves or a loved one. When that time comes, they'll count on being able to access specialists in a well-equipped and patient-centered environment designed to ensure the best possible healthcare experience. While we pause on the redevelopment of KGH, our current goal is to invest $15 million in capital upgrades and renewals at KHSC, which will be seen in operating room equipment, clinical laboratories, and diagnostic imaging. In hospital operating rooms, the surgical teams perform more than 22,000 procedures each year. If you've ever joined us on our hospital tours, you'll recall that these spaces are some of the oldest operating rooms in the country. Today, they require an investment of $4 million to bring them to current care standards. The equipment will benefit a variety of departments from bariatrics to oncology, urology, cardiology, ENT, trauma, pediatrics, and obstetrics and gynecology. Another priority is the clinical labs, where they're working to expand their translational genomics facility. This highly specialized lab was born from the pandemic when Kingston Health Sciences was selected as one of 4 labs in Ontario to monitor variants of concern. Today, these labs are taking the next step in precision medicine, also referred to as personalized medicine. And through genetic sequencing, they're making the diagnosis of cancer and other diseases more accurate by evaluating specific tumor biomarkers to select the safest and most effective treatments. We need to increase funding by $2.5 million to acquire the necessary equipment to expand this translational genomics facility. This will lead to improved detection, diagnosis, treatment, and outcomes for our communities. In a recent announcement from Ontario Health, KHSC was approved as the 14th site in Ontario to operate a PET scanner. This is very positive news for citizens of Southeastern Ontario, who will no longer have to travel to Ottawa or Toronto for these scans. A PET scan provides a more comprehensive scan than CT or MRI and is an early, essential step before treatment of most cancers. Today, patients must drive to Ottawa or Toronto and spend several hours there every time a scan is required. Having access to this advanced imaging at Kingston Health Sciences Centre will save residents time, money, and worry, and will also lead to better and earlier diagnosis and treatment of cancer. The new PET scanner will be housed at the KGH site and will cost $8 million. The government funds the minimum operations for this device, but covers no cost for the actual device or construction. This is where the lines between provincial and municipal budgets can get a little blurry. We know that healthcare is a provincial responsibility, but the fact remains that municipal dollars have been supporting the gap in healthcare for many years. The cost for innovative healthcare is significant and often out of reach for communities. The rapidly increasing cost of new technology, like I've just described, is a big factor. Without the cutting-edge technologies, we'd all be traveling to major city centers like Toronto or Ottawa for more complex care. But with support from almost all surrounding municipalities in Southeastern Ontario, we are able to have a direct impact on patient care, and this translates into improved quality of life for residents. As the population of Southeastern Ontario, including that of the City of Brighton and Northumberland County, continues to grow and age, the region's tertiary care facility must also continue to invest in new technology and innovation. Our hospital is looking to Brighton Council to help us achieve our vision of providing a transformative healthcare experience for citizens of Southeastern Ontario. UHKF is asking Council to renew your past investment with a grant of $12,500. This investment is based on a fair share calculation for the 1,800 visits made by Brighton residents last year. Support at this level will directly improve patient care for your residents and will also demonstrate your commitment to the acute care for all residents of our region. We understand that there's many pressures and demands on your budget, and you have a difficult job considering all the requests that will make the greatest impact on your residents. We believe that quality healthcare is a strong step in the right direction and hope that the information shared today will inspire members of council to support the capital upgrades at Kingston Health Sciences Centre, in addition to your other local priorities. The value residents place on access to healthcare close to home is difficult to measure, but we know that it is usually a top priority. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for your time. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those now.
Thank you, Abigail. Very good presentation. Lots going on in Kingston. Anyone on council have any questions for Abigail? Does that mean it? Councilor Ferreras? Yeah. Oh, sorry. So no questions. I have a question. So the project with the new hospital is stalled. Is that correct? What you were saying? I was
Yes, that's correct.
shocked to hear that. Anything in sight as far as?
We sure hope so. Towards the end of the year, as plans were moving forward, and as I mentioned with cost escalations, what was budget, we basically exceeded what was approved by the Ministry of Health for a $1 billion hospital build. Based on what is needed for that hospital, it's far exceeded that. And so they're looking at, potentially other options, if redeveloping that site makes the most sense, possibly a new hospital. But again, we need more input from the Ministry of Health on what's feasible. So we're really hoping that in the next 6 months or so, we get some answers, because certainly the redevelopment and updating that facility is quite urgent.
It looks like you're switching gears a little bit, that you've got to start focusing on that equipment again, the capital equipment for to keep you going with what you've got now. So
yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. And what's good about the capital equipment is that, when the hospital space is either redeveloped or, there's a new site, we'll be able to move all that capital equipment over to any new space.
okay. Well, thank you. And thank you for your presentation here. And council has nothing. I will accept this delegation from Abigail McQuaham. Please say it again.
Macawam. It was even better than your second time.
After 14. Oh, sorry. All right. Associate Director of the University Hospitals Kingston Foundation. And we have a motion from Councillor Weldon and a seconded by Councillor Raleigh to receive your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
May I show of hands? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, thanks again. We have one more delegation. This is Shelley Ackers from Executive Director of Quinte Transit. And Shelley's here. No.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Hi. Hi, good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for inviting us. So I am with Quinte Transit, and I know we have some new council joining us this year, so I thought I would just give a quick overview of some of the services that we've been providing for Brighton. So we do provide a door-to-door specialized transit service, and we have been providing this for probably going on about 25 years or more. And this service is available to all residents that have a disability or a senior. So they are able to call, book a service. It is door to door, so it's from their door to the first accessible door of where they're going. All of our vehicles are accessible, so it doesn't matter what style of vehicle we use for that pickup. And that's kind of the main service that we've been offering. Then in about 2017, we opened up one of our runs that was going on a daily basis, and we opened it up to all residents to use for in town or to access into Trenton. So we found a lot of people were looking to come into Trenton either for medical, going to the hospital, going to the lab, or to come in and do shopping. So we started running that. It ran twice a day and had various pickups in town, and people could ride that for $5 each way. It wasn't that popular on the uptake. I think just with the times, and then of course the return time, I think some found it was too long of a wait in town before they could get home again. And then in 2019, we applied for a CT, which is a community transportation grant. And that was to open up a run from Frankfurt into Trenton, and also to support the run from Brighton into Trenton. And what this was doing was letting us to start building a regional transit system. So we also had a connection being laid out that was going to connect Trenton into Belleville. So we would have a flow right from Brighton into Trenton and then into Belleville if people needed to go that route. And so we did start that. And unfortunately, when we started it, that was just when the pandemic hit. So we did still offer the run. Again, uptake was slow just with the amount of ridership that we were seeing. We did initially have a drop in ridership of about 60% the first year while going into the pandemic, and we've slowly been recouping that. Last year we were up 82%, but we're still under about 50 from our original ridership in 2019. So we are trying to get the momentum going and building that ridership. So we do also have the gas tax funding that the province gives for all municipal transit systems. So we utilize that towards the offset some of the costs for the seniors service. And that has been fairly steady. They've added to the pot. We don't know what this year's allocation is going to be, as we haven't got the current figures yet from the MTO. But we are hopeful that amounts will remain the same. And that's kind of what we have budgeted on for this year is that we're going to get at least the same amount as we did last year. So we will have that funding coming in. We were also in receipt of some Safe Restart money that the province put out towards transit systems. And that was to help with any of the additional costs for COVID. So we were allowed to use that to offset some of the fare reduction that we had been seeing. Also, we had enhanced cleaning put in because we had to do disinfecting on vehicles every day to make sure things were safe. We had to do seating capacity, some requirements so that we could do social distancing on the buses as much as possible. So they did allow us some funding towards those costs to help offset that. That has kind of come to an end. We had a little bit for last year. As far as I know, there's nothing projected for 2023 as of yet that we've heard of. If there is, we will definitely pass some of that along to Brighton as they go into the mix with Quinte West for all of those figures. So again, we're just building on the ridership. We're still running not a fixed route per se. We've gone to an on-demand model just with the ridership being low. So we can try and catch when people need to go. So it gives us a better understanding of what they're actually looking for. So anybody can call us. They can book a ride. They would let us know what time, where, what stop they want to be picked up at. We will then connect them in town to either another transit stop or to one of the other transit depots if they wanted to go on to Belleville. The other thing that we do, just with all the talk about the healthcare and the hospitals, is that we do provide a lot of transportation to the various hospitals, Trenton Memorial, BGH, and also to Kingston. So we are pretty much the only accessible transportation provider for anybody that is in a wheelchair that needs to go to Kingston, or even into Trenton or Belleville that doesn't have their own transportation. So it's nice to see services being available closer to home, because it does get quite cost prohibitive for some people. So it is nice to see that we're bringing services a little bit closer that makes it more affordable for people. That's about all I have. If anybody has any questions about the services or how we're funded, I'd be happy to answer those.
Yes, thank you. Council have any questions? I knew you would have a question. Go ahead, Councilor.
To the chair, thank you. Ms. Ackers, is there any federal funding available?
The only federal funding that we get for transit is for capital. So if there's any capital projects, we did receive some ISIP funding a few years ago, and we've utilized that to install cameras onto our buses for safety, for passenger safety and for driver safety. We're also putting on some bike racks on some of our vehicles to help people that maybe want to come and explore the trails, or they can do part of their trip by bike. So we're looking at that. And then we have a fare box system that's going in for collections. So if people do come on and they're paying by cash, the money can be locked so that it's not accessible to drivers or to the public.
You want to follow?
May
Go
I have
ahead.
a follow-up, please? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mrs. Ackers, and I could be all wrong, but at the recent Roma conference, I heard talk about the federal government recently initiating a fund to support rural transit authorities. And again, maybe I misunderstood it, but that's what I'd heard. And
I think we heard it together. So I'm glad you brought that up.
we heard it together.
I heard-
Okay,
we
so
heard
it
it
was- I
together.
wasn't hallucinating.
No.
Thank you.
We were talking to the feds.
Yeah.
No, I
Yes,
don't know
so-
where, well, I don't know where it's going, but maybe, hopefully, you hear about that.
Yeah, so typically any funding that comes from either government, provincial or federal, once the program is pushed out, that will go to the municipality, which will be Quinte West as the host for any of those funds. So I don't have any particulars of what the program might look like or what exactly they're putting into it, but if it's a preset amount, they will notify the municipality of what their amount is. And then we can look at what the parameters are and see what program we may be able to utilize that funding for.
Thank you. Councilor Whalen, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just looking at the last year's request and the year before. So between 2021 and 2022, there's about $1,500 difference. And then 2022 to 2023 goes up about $12,000. So I'm just wondering if there's anything in particular that's driving the large increase, or my apologies if you've already said it.
No, so the bulk of the increase, part of it is due to just the operational cost. We went from last year, we had an operating cost per kilometer of about 77 cents. We're up to just under $1 for the 2022. So that would be just our fuel, insurance, repairs and maintenance. One of the drives for repairs and maintenance is just the lack of capital that's available. Bus times, we just can't seem to purchase new buses. They just don't have them available at this time. So we're about 1.5 years behind with ordering new equipment. So we have had to put a little bit more money into some of our older vehicles just to make sure that we can keep them on the road and that they're safe for everybody. The other bigger driver was the employee wages. We were about 20% below other comparable municipal transit properties in Ontario for our size of population. And we were really struggling with driver retention and acquiring new people into the mix. And a lot of it was they were being enticed to some of these other larger properties such as Kingston and Belleville, just because the wages and benefit package was better for them. So we did find that we lost some people, and we're struggling with drivers still today. I mean, it's a problem that spans every transportation company. School boards are having a hard time getting school bus drivers, and all of the agencies are having a hard time getting drivers on board. So it was something that we had to look at. So our wages did go up from 22 to 23. We are projecting about a 17% increase just on wages for the coming year.
Thank you for that. As a former professional driver, I really appreciate it. Thank you for your driver as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I for one have heard numerous times reports that no driver available for such and such route, and it's not always the snow, and it's not always within your control sometimes too. So anyhow, it's a tough job you're doing, and I remember when you first started 2 years ago, how tough it was to even just get some funding to get one bus going. So you do have a good fleet now. I thought you had a pretty good fleet right now. It might be getting older, but
Yeah, it's not in bad shape. We do try to keep it up, but there is a cost associated with everything, unfortunately. Parts and maintenance costs have gone up as well. But we do have in our total fleet, including all of our transit buses, so we do have around 24 vehicles now. So we have quite a range, and they run from different sizes, from passenger vans for one wheelchair, one client, up to 18 passenger buses as well. So we do have a good mix. And the nice part about that is that although on the capital side, we ask for capital funding to cover the cost for about maybe one bus, but we can utilize a multitude of different vehicles to provide the service, because it depends where those vehicles are that we can call into service. So it really does help us keep operating costs down when you don't have to run back and forth empty, hopefully. So we're trying to fill in both ways to cut down on deadheading time and really generate some more revenues.
Somebody else have, go ahead, Councilor Butler.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I have a very quick question. Am I correct in understanding that you're no longer running a regular scheduled route through Brighton, and that it is just a call for service right now?
Yeah. Yes, that's right. So the one that we have, so we still utilize the bus stops in town to do pickups. Right now it is on demand only. The times that we were going, we ran it for about a month, and we weren't getting anybody on it. I think we had like maybe 2 or 3 pickups. So we've gone to the on demand, so people can now book it when they need to go. And that seems to be working better. So we are seeing that there's an uptake on the public transit side, which is anybody that doesn't qualify for the door-to-door, basically. And then once we start looking at those trips and we see some patterns, we can start looking at it, putting some times back on a fixed route. Just the times that we were running just obviously weren't times when people needed to go. So we didn't really have any of that information to put those routes out there on a fixed time.
Go ahead,
Quick
yeah.
follow-up. So there is a plan to bring back 1 or 2 trips per day, a round trip per day, even just into Trenton. How far out from those decisions are you at this point?
So we can do, so every morning we are in Brighton at 9 o'clock, and every day we go back at 3 o'clock. So we always have those trips available. It's the in-between times that we don't really know when people want to go, because nobody was utilizing it when we were there. So we do have some data we can probably start looking at. I would probably hold off and do this in the spring when the weather's a little bit better as well. We found that in Brighton, when the weather was bad, we really didn't get a lot of people coming out. I don't know if they had other rides or made arrangements with neighbors. We didn't get a lot of traction in the winter months. So I think the springtime we'll be looking at it. We'll be doing a review in Quinte West as well at the same time.
Thank you.
The mayor has a question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you, Executive Director, would you mind sharing your ridership numbers with us? And I don't mean this evening, but if you could provide that information to staff, for staff to push out to us, that would be appreciated.
Yes, certainly.
Specifically, I mean, I think generally, but specifically for Brighton.
Yes.
And go ahead, Councillor.
To the chair, and just to follow up on Mayor Ostrander's request, I believe you'll find the ridership numbers for Brighton were contained in the minutes of the December meeting of Quinte Transit, which I sat in on, and I have put those on file with the clerk, so they are available to all members of council.
Thank you for that.
I'd like to go ahead, Emily, go ahead.
This is a question for Ms. Whitfield. Is this something, do we fund this program through our gas tax? Is this how we pay for some of that?
No, sorry, through you, Chair. There's an agreement that's well over 20 years old with the city of Quinte West. And they receive our provincial gas tax based on the calculations that are provided from Quinte Transit each year. So Shelley, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the calculations are submitted based on ridership, based on maybe population. And then from there, the provincial gas tax is calculated and all of it is sent to Quinte West. We don't bring any of it into revenue. It's all brought in through Quinte West.
Yes, correct. Quinte West is the host municipality and Brighton has the agreement to support their gas tax program. And yeah, the calculation is 30% is based on your area population and 70% of the gas tax allocation is based on ridership.
I have a question. Ridership. We were talking about the numbers, how many the ridership. I'd be interested to know on the purpose of their ride. Is it for business? Are they going to work? Are they going shopping? Or are they going to the maybe medical reasons, something like that? Because I think, it's obviously what the market is looking for. And if ridership's down, it could be only down in one area, and maybe it's a way of promoting yourselves within a certain group or something. But and then just to tie in, you're Quinte, you're known as Quinte West, basically you're based in Quinte West, right?
Right.
What's the association with Belleville? Belleville, yeah, they have their issues with funding public transit. I know they do. But, the idea to get people that live in our community and live in even Quinte West to work in Belleville or to get services that the hospitals are now doing much more in the way of servicing here rather than having to go to Kingston. Is there communication? Is there good work with them to maybe tie more of a really strong regional based transit?
Yeah, so we actually started a regional transit. So we actually do Prince Edward County as well. So we have a route from Picton Bloomfield that goes into Belleville. We also have one from Trenton that goes into Belleville, and we tie into the Belleville transit system. And we work very closely with them on their transfer time. So when we're there, all their buses are there. So if you have to transfer to a Belleville bus, you probably have no more than maybe a 5-minute wait at the maximum for any bus to come in. So we built our schedules to get you there in time to transfer. The other thing is it's a one pay. So the customer can get on in Brighton for a regional fare of $6 and they can go to Belleville on that fare. And after they get off of our bus and they get on the Belleville bus, it's just done by transfer at that point. So Belleville accepts our transfers and we also accept them back from Belleville when the client's ready to return.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor.
Is there any partnership with Loyalist College? I've had an email from a resident in Brighton asking about transit to Loyalist College.
Yes, so our Belleville connection from Trenton, first thing in the morning, it goes to the Belleville bus terminal to catch early morning for work purposes. After that, we do use Loyalist College as our main hub for turnaround. So we do have a working relationship with Loyalist to use their main bus shelter at the Kente building to use as a transfer point. And we also connect to the Belleville buses that come in there. So they have two, one goes right downtown back to the terminal and one goes to the Quinte Mall. So you can still access everywhere in Belleville from Loyalist College.
Good. Well, all those folks that have been saying we need some transit in Brighton, I hope they hear this and they get out there and calling you, and eventually we can get back to maybe a more normal bus routes. So
yes.
Anyhow, good work and thanks for all you're doing. Anyone else have anything to say before I ask to receive this? We have a motion from Councillor Wright and seconded by Jeff Wilden to receive Shelley Ackers, Executive Director of Quinte Transit, receiver delegation. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you.
Good work. Okay, that brings us to citizens' comments. We have one comment that I know of, and Brenda Richardson's here, and she has a question regarding Public Works budget. So I'm going to read something here that I'm obligated to do, and before you start there, these are the rules of conduct. The following matters will not be permitted during citizens' comments, complaints against members of council or municipal staff, matters beyond the jurisdiction of council or the municipality, closed session agenda items, including current or pending litigation or insurance claims and or pending claims by or any against the municipality, comments with respect to minutes of council and advisory bodies, comments that are contrary to the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection and Privacy Act, comments with respect to any application which have proceeded through a public meeting in accordance with the Planning Act, with the exception of comment related to a recommendation contained within the staff report. The chair may include citizens' comments prior to 10 minutes maximum, and for non-compliance with the citizens' comments perimeters, conduct of members of the public or any other reason. No person making a citizen comment shall speak disrespectfully of any person, use offensive words or unparliamentary language, disobey the rules or order of decision of the chair. Presiding officer or a warning or ruling will be given. All right, so you can you have the floor, Brenda Richardson.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, my name is Brenda Richardson and I live at 104 Raglan Street. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Council, Director Winterfield, staff. I just have a couple of questions. After reviewing the budget section for Public Works, I may have missed it, but I couldn't find anything on pond maintenance for any of the ponds. Last year, when it was confirmed that the town had not assumed Orchard Gate Pond, we were told that they were searching for the maintenance records. Now, I've never heard if they have been found yet or not. For those of you unaware, the municipality had been told to have a maintenance plan in place for all ponds assumed by the municipality by September 2017 by David Fisher of the MOE. One of the other items, I don't see anything pertaining to any kind of traffic study or calming measures for south of the tracks. I ask the council please review the video of the meeting from February the 22nd, 2022 to get a better picture of what was brought forward by the previous council, including calming measures such as speed bumps, no heavy trucks on Raglan, and of course, speed issues on Cedar, Raglan, and Ontario Street. Deputy Mayor Anderson, I am sure you remember this meeting as you were in favor of having staff bring a report to council for cost. I don't recall this being brought forward. At the mayor's request, I forwarded information on how Belleville saved a lot of money with their traffic study by involving the public's concerns by putting it on their website. And if you like, I can forward it to the new councillors. I also found another calming measure in regards to planting trees, which I found very interesting. And I've been talking to Director Whiteman about various things, and he's going to be looking into them. One other item is that I read online that the LTC, by request of Brighton, to do an up-to-date flood plan map, including Butler Creek, at approximate cost of $100,000. It mentions that there is funding for this, and it's been applied for, it mentions that there's funding for this. And then the RFP closed for this on January 27th, 2023. So my question is anybody applied for this funding? And if we don't get the funding, where will the money come from? Will you take it from reserves, or it is going to take a couple of years, at least a year and a half to do the, and there will be public meetings for this if you hadn't read the report that they had online.
So my question is, I guess, like, I would like to know, and if someone could respond in an email or whatever, if these items have just been missed, if I missed them, or if they're not going to do them at all. Thank you.
No. Thank you for your presentation. The citizens' comments, January 30th Committee of a Whole meeting. I asked for them to be received. May I have a show of hands in favor of that? I need a motion first. I'm sorry. Yes. Well, I got it right here. Moving along. I have a motion from Byron Ferrettis, Councillor, and seconded by Ann Butwell, Councillor, that the citizen comments be received. May I have a show of hands in favor or against? In favor? Against? Carry. Okay, everybody, we're going to move along into the budget book now, or your budget pages, which you have. We're going to be dealing with the gifts in kind, and we have a full list to go through. And if we get through this, we'll get to the external budgets later. So I guess the best way to do this is just to go down the list. What we're going to do is, first of all, I might ask Linda to tell us what kind of dollar amount we're looking for at the end of all this, and maybe any more information we need while we're going through this list.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So our grants and aid policy allows for 1.5% of the prior year's tax levy. And so we're looking for $154,731 as the maximum amount you would spend. And that includes all of the items on Schedule A, which is your community support for grants and aid, as well as from the hospitals and the cemeteries.
Thank you. We'll start out with the first item, Quinte saleability. You've all got the information in your binders. I presume you've read it. If you have want to go back and look at something or ask a question of one of us, we may have be able to move through it. But let's move through it quickly if we can. Quinte sustainability. Their budget this year is the same as last, and they're asking for $1,000. Soho, which is the next item, is Proctor House, and again, they are asking for the same amount as they have asked for the last few years, $12,000. Now, I don't know if you want to stop and talk about any of this. Okay, Mr. Ferrettis, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair, but I think the mayor hit the button just before me.
I didn't hear it.
Thank you both. I was just going to suggest that we do stop at each line
Yeah,
item and see if anyone
yeah.
has any comment or question.
Okay. Anybody? Okay, well, let's just back up a minute. Saleability. Everybody know what that is? You've read okay. So I think it's a good program, and it's based out of Quinte West, and they do some work here too. So anyhow, so the next item is Soho. We all know Proctor House. It's our main museum of such in Brighton, and we've supported it for a long time. So go ahead, Councillor, with your question.
Thank you to the chair. Regarding the Soho application, I would ask that we table that one until we get a full set of financial statements. There is no balance sheet in there, and they appear to have paid $20,000 for furnace repairs, and then expensed it, which led to an overstated loss. If you take that out, because they paid the cash somewhere, furnace guys don't work for nothing or on credit, then their loss was more in the historical range of $5,000 or $6,000, which simply says to me they have a revenue problem. They need to increase their rates. So I think getting a balance sheet would tell us what sort of reserves they have. And I believe their sheets should have come in with a full set of audited financial statements, and that didn't happen. So I would hope that we could go back to them and get that detail before we move much further on this one.
Okay, Councilor Boutwell, question?
Sorry for you, Mr. Chair. In hindsight, I should have declared an interest as well. Because I sit on the SOHO committee.
Okay.
So I'd like to just state that at this point.
On the committee, as a
As
councilor,
council rep.
so you're
Oh, I don't
okay.
know.
I'm going to,
Oh, gosh, that's right.
um,
Panic, first time jitters.
but for,
So then I may actually have a partial answer for Councillor Paredes.
you could, hope you have all the answers.
So Councillor Paredes, I attended the meeting about a week and a half ago. It is my understanding, based on my very brief exposure to the group, that the money was taken from a reserve fund that they had. And they have depleted that reserve fund beyond where they had wished to. That the second furnace was actually found to be not functioning properly when they had service done on their first furnace. So just, that's where it came from.
I'm going to touch on that. And one other thing, during COVID, weren't even open. And so as far as getting support from whatever they get from people travel, taking tours or whatever, and whatever other support they might get from the public, when you're not open, you don't seem to get a lot of support. So I think they've had some difficult times. And I agree, it'd be nice if they were able to put some numbers together that made some sense, but I think the sense in it is they're operating in a heritage building and a very large building, and it's their costs. If they have no revenue, what do we want to do? I think it's something that we need to assist them to preserve heritage and what little we have left in Brighton, in my opinion. And so I think that's the reason why, and for them to put together a financial statement with a certified accountant or something would be just kill them. So, Mayor?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I highly doubt they've ever had their books officially audited. That's usually about a $5,000 hit. So often organizations like this will have them reviewed by a volunteer or a volunteer with some financial acumen. I don't know that that's the case here. I would ask the director to comment on that at some point, but I would point out to council that our grant just barely covers their insurance. And that was always the intent, that we would cover their insurance plus a little bit for some repairs and maintenance. And then they would go and seek grant opportunities from the provincial and federal governments and whatever came in through donations and other user fees, users being people who show up and pay. And of course, you're quite right, Deputy Mayor, they've essentially been shuttered for 2.5 years. And given the fact that the volunteers are not young people in that building, they were extra shuttered. Even when other places were opening up, there was some worry and some anxiety. And so they remained shuttered even when they may have been able to, but there were health concerns with their volunteers that kept them shuttered. So quite right. I think it behooves us to help this heritage building, this landmark heritage building in our community stay alive and well as much as we can.
Thanks. 100% agree with you on that. Go ahead, Linda.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So through you to the mayor, there was a point in time when we were getting audited statements from SOHO. So I'm going to reach out to them just to see if we can get some more current audited statements from them. Because usually a balance sheet is part of a financial statement and we don't see it. The other thing I wanted to just touch on, Deputy Mayor, is if we could go back to the first one, Quinte saleability, and just get like consensus, and then we can add it to the budget because none of these numbers are in the budget currently.
Okay, that's good. And then we'll have something at the end of the process. Jeff, are you looking at me? Because you want, okay. I don't want to miss you, Jeff. Question? Go ahead, Counselor.
Through you, Mr. Chair, and to the mayor. You had mentioned that there had traditionally been an agreement that the funding would cover the insurance costs thereabouts. So I saw the invoice for the insurance for this year, and it's actually in excess of this dollar amount.
Unbelievable. Anyhow, you're on that committee. Okay, so if there's no other questions on that, anyhow, they do great. It's a great facility, so I'm glad we're all on the same page on that. So go back to the first item. Everybody at the moment, that like Linda said, do you feel good about that? No problem with that? And nobody has any issues with that?
You're
The next
referring to
item-
Quinte saleability?
The saleability. So we're just gonna put a little check mark there and then we'll add it all up and see where we're going later. And the Soho, the $12,000. Anybody say no? Okay. I've got it all checked off. Sunny days. They have a request this year, a little different than what they did. Oh, we do.
Sorry.
I'm
before you-
sorry. I thought we got past the question.
Before you move on, given the news that their insurance for Soho has increased, is it possible to extend more to them, or do we have to stick to the numbers that they were asking
I'm
for?
going to answer that. Or I'll let the mayor wants to answer that. I just think this is what they've put together. This is the request where they feel comfortable with. And as we have a list that's going to be far exceed where I think we appreciate groups that ask what they feel that they're going to spend. There's some groups that I had heard at the other budget meetings where the groups had not spent all their money and did not turn it back. Not being for any reason, just and that's the policy too. If they do not spend the money for the purpose that they asked for it, they are to return it to the municipality or a portion of or whatever. So, and I don't think I remember from last year, we hadn't seen a lot of that come back. So, which is pretty normal in most cases. So are you okay with that answer that let's just stick with what they're asking for now? And
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to.
no, it'd be very nice to, that we can get on a fundraising committee or something. All right, Counselor, Ferris, go ahead.
Thank you to the chair. I'm not adverse to supporting Soho. But I would like to see, and I think council deserves to see a balance sheet that gives us some idea of the scope and breadth of any reserves that they may or may not have. And I know Councillor Butwell is just new to the group, so it takes a little time to get that under your feet. But it is a requirement of our grants application. So if we could just kind of get that back on track. And finally, I agree, if that's what they've asked for, then that's what they've asked for.
I think if I can just say, ask Linda that we're going to look into seeing it like a balance sheet or something for us to work off of, something that we can put in front of us and feel good about it and understand what's going on, not going on, but where their needs are and what we might as individuals be able. I think if community can start getting behind some of these groups, like we're talking transit, people don't ride it, they're going to lose it. And it's just like the GO train thing, these are things, I'm not bringing them up for any reason that other than we can bring services, people can work hard to provide good opportunities for people. But if they're not used, it's just beating a dead horse, I think. So use an expression. Sorry, Counselor. Go ahead.
I would like, through you, Mr. Chair, to ask Director Whitfield a quick question. So seeing that are there other groups that perhaps we may require some updates from?
I do not vet I don't look through any of the financial statements and information that's provided. That's for council's information. I do ask for appropriate cash handling policies. And each group has provided that if not this year, in the past. So they're supposed to update that. It's highlighted right in the grant application. And I don't really look at the financial statements too closely unless somebody has a question, and I might look at it a little bit for them at that point. But it's really up to council to decide if the information that they've received is sufficient enough to make a decision on, providing a grant to them for their project.
Thank you.
You satisfied with that? There we go. I think the thing to do is you've been through these, everybody's application, but as we go here, if you want to have a quick glance at that section, and if it's a little lean on what the information you need, bring it up again, just like Councillor Fredis did. He was in his right to, let's look into this and just move on. So, okay. So are we clear on Soho? So, oh, Councillor?
Just
Mayor?
to make sure we're encompassing everybody's comments here, and I respect Councillor Fredis's want for the statement, so I'm absolutely supportive of that. I know the director's going to reach out to Soho over that, but for now, I think council should earmark this as part of the budget, and should we discover there's something awry, then we can always yank it out later.
Yeah.
But for the purposes of understanding where the road we're going down, I think it would be
Yeah,
appropriate to add it to the
you're
budget.
just parking it for a little bit. Okay, that's perfect. I've checked it off, and we're moving on to Sunny Days. Sunny Days is as in the past requested 5,000. Oh no, last year there was 20,000, and then this year they're back to 5,000. So I think I know why they did that. But is there anybody have any questions about that? You want to give them back 20? No, go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you to the chair. I mean, Sunny Days, I gather from their submission, provides a valuable service. I don't question that at all. But I'm looking at the supplied financial statements, and I'm not a certified accountant. I just know a little bit of management accounting, and in 2021, their excess of revenue over expenses was $44,000. And their net assets at the end of the year have grown to $192,000. They don't quite seem to me to be in desperate need of funding based on these numbers.
Okay.
Now, unless there's something in here I'm missing, and I would be delighted if a financial expert or somebody could point it out to me, but
It just maybe what I haven't got it in front of me. You do. What they're going to use that 5,000 for might be important to know. But I'll let the mayor. You could maybe look at that first, and Mayor, you go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you. This organization is saving significant, or trying to save significant money for a rebuild of their facility, which is likely why we're going to see additional monies at the end of each year, which I anticipate they'd be putting into reserves for the purposes of a new build. They are quickly they have outgrown their existing space. They're managing through it. I understand that they are looking to move, though, as soon as humanly possible, because they're just jam-packed in there, period. And they need recreational, they need programming space, they need office space there.
And with the waiting list.
Yeah.
Last kind of comments that I've read, that they're they have a waiting list for more people to join the group, but they just don't have space.
Go ahead, Councillor.
to the chair, thank you. And I understand that they're looking to build or acquire some other facility, and it's a laudable exercise, but you know, this tells me that they had cash on hand of $179,000 and they garnered $265 interest. Heck, a GIC today will garner 5% on the 2-year term. If they're really accumulating cash for a facility, I would think that their financial management practices should be a little better than that, and that they're socking this stuff away to generate more interest on the stockpile of cash. Maybe as part and parcel of any granting funds that we provide them, maybe we should be looking at providing them with some financial management assistance as well, because having cash sitting around like that, not earning interest, doesn't help their cause.
Well, go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. That's a laudable goal, but not the role of the municipality with regard to a private organization like this. Really, the only question we need to answer is, are we willing to donate 5,000 tax dollars to this organization for the purposes of whatever it is they're requesting or not? That's really the only thing we have to answer.
You refer to the reserves that they have, and they're obviously banking for their new facility. If you look at their rent and if you look at their insurance, so all their costs of operating are substantial. You look at their labor costs, it's gone up considerably, but I take it with the number of you know, people using it. I'm sure I'm not sure how many staff they have, but there must be staff because the numbers have been rising. And so the attendance is high. Whenever I've been there, it is jammed, and they do need to get out of there. I agree. I think $5,000 is probably to go towards some programs, some travel. I think I saw that travel, local activities. Yes, so I feel good about that. And if they're doing their job too, and their fundraising, they've been doing very well too. I commend them on that. We all saw last year. There was always something going on with them, and we assisted through the park as well. So I have no problem with the 5,000, but again, if you want to make note of what you had questions you want to follow up on, we can do that and move on though. Anybody else? Can we tick that off for now? Okay, I am. And the next item is the beacon. The beacon started out asking, did I miss something? Oh, supper's ready. I'm sorry. My stomach's full. Anyhow, supper's ready is asking for, they missed last year for some reason. I think they were doing pretty good, but this year, if you read their information there, it's things are a little different with food costs and that type of thing. So everybody agree on the $5,000. You'd like to discuss it. Go ahead, Jeff.
I just noticed here a treasurer's recommendation to the board says your treasurer recommends the board not apply the municipality of Brighton for a subsidy to support our dinner program. And here they are. I mean, I guess they applied anyway. I just found that curious.
Good question. Go ahead, Councilor Freitas.
To the chair, I think if Councillor Wielden, there's a couple of pages like that because they've provided a few years. I think that's a reference to 2021 and not 2023 per se.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Thank you, my mistake.
All good with that? Okay, so I've ticked off, we're going to accept that for tonight, for now. All right, and now the beacon. The beacon started out a couple of years ago with 6,500, and they're asking for 500 more this year. Anyone want to address that one? Okay. I'm going to tick it off that are we okay with that? Nobody says no. We're moving along. Waterfront.
Deputy Mayor,
regeneration.
Councillor Wright has a question.
Oh,
Sorry,
you jumped in.
I'm trying to get to the page.
Oh, okay, I gotta just-
And sorry. Have they rehired? Because I know they lost their director. Do we know if they've rehired yet or not?
their director. Oh,
Mr. Fuller is no longer with.
oh, that's
King-
right. Yes, yes.
I believe they made a change as well from the Belleville chapter of Youth for Christ to the Northumberland chapter of Youth for Christ. So the funding goes to Youth for Christ. That comes back to them to fund their programs with youth in our community. So when Mr. Fuller resigned, I imagine that it was it might have been that change in the, am I correct, Mayor Ostrander?
I'm sorry, I don't know. I know they were with Quinte Youth for Christ, and the application certainly shows Northumberland Youth for Christ. So this would be a change back because years ago they were with Northumberland Youth for Christ. So I'm not sure. I don't know the Youth for Christ politics or why the back and forth, quite frankly.
Anyone see why they're looking for, I haven't got it in front of me either, asking for $500 more for any reason? Is it just same programs? And I know that they have rent, right? Is that right? And insurance too. Insurance and rent. So I presume it's the same thing we all face. So okay, it's not unreasonable increase. So is there anybody, maybe the mayor has something?
Thank you. And through you, Deputy Mayor, I also see that they're budgeting, it would appear that they're budgeting a surplus. They're budgeting a $15,000 surplus. And they're asking us for, so without knowing what they might be projecting that surplus for, I think it might behoove us to ask them to come and let us know what's what there.
No, I'm glad you saw that. Go ahead, Councilor Butwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also, when I was reviewing, I'd made a note that their grant that they're requesting of us is $7,000, but their fundraising is only $4,000,
Yeah,
which seems a little out of whack to me. So perhaps if they could come and, like the mayor had said, and come and explain their ask.
It's a good group. They do good work for the youth in the community. I've often had some concerns from a global governance inclusivity perspective, but the local group doesn't seem to adhere to those polity issues at YFC. So I'm happy to continue to help fund them. I just need to understand what it is we're helping to fund, and I'm also happy to reach out to the treasurer, who I know is away, but I can contact.
they've been here for a long time.
Long time.
Yeah. And for the community to lose, I'll call it a service. It is a service, not our service, but it's to lose something like that. Where would we be? Where would they be? Go ahead.
Just in response to what Councillor Butwell had pointed out, the line after fundraising is donations, which is 47,000. So I don't think it's a lack of fundraising. I think they've just broken out maybe smaller fundraising activities from general donations. Does that make sense? I don't know. I could be wrong.
Sounds like they're doing well in donations, and that's why they have, what did the mayor say, surplus. So maybe they're fundraising or whatever can continue and get more donations. So anyway, we'll address it. We'll take a look at it, and the mayor's indicated that he's going to follow up himself as well. So we'll leave that for now. Maybe I'll leave it with a check mark just for purposes of for what we're doing tonight. Waterfront Regeneration Trust now is next, and they're not asking for the world, but go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you to the chair. And I concur, they're not asking for the world. They're only asking for $500, but I'm a little puzzled. why they need our money. They have a general fund with $750,000. They have a restricted fund with over 9 million invested. For a combined total of 10.1 million. Why do they need our $500? It says that if they haven't spent anything in the past, as one of our conditions, they should return the funds to the municipality. We'd like our bicycle back.
Well, I think I know what I'm gonna do with this one. Anyhow, very good that you brought that up. Good question, or good answer, good question. Anyone else have anything to add?
I think the $500 is just used locally from part of this whole program. And if I am correct, I do believe a couple of years ago, they did bring money back because they did not spend it. I think they were one of the only ones that we've ever had return money. Is that not correct, Linda? A few years ago, I think with Mr. Green.
Through you, Chair, I believe it was the yacht club that returned money, and that's the only one I can recall.
I thought Roger Green's part of this, and I thought, oh, this is a different group.
Sorry, that's a different group that the councillor's thinking of. And that is who it was who gave that money back. And he was working in conjunction with the yacht club for the testing of the lake waters, if you remember. If I may, Deputy Mayor, perhaps we could ask the Waterfront Regeneration Trail to come and provide a delegation, let us know what they're doing with our $500.
There's something in there about signs, but I don't know how many signs you can do for every year.
Be good to know.
Yeah. Okay, so
It says for
we'll
program.
ask Candace to give them an invite. Should we leave them on the list tonight or? Okay. The Brighton Garden Club. All right, the mayor.
I'm just going to jump in here. The Brighton Garden Club provides us with an exceptional service in terms of what they do for the Rosellery Park and other community gardens in Brighton. For $700, it is incredible value for our money. We get a lot more than $700 worth of beautification in our community with this group.
This is one of those that you feel like giving a little more. But anyhow, I know it all is. But, no. What are you sending me flowers?
I
Anyhow,
think Councillor Paredes had a question.
go ahead, Councillor Paredes.
To the chair, thank you. Not a question, but I would concur with the mayor. I think it's a worthwhile grant to make.
Okay, next item. Are we all good with that? Okay. Brighton Community Care is the next on the list, and they've been consistent as well. And asking for $5,000. $5,000, yes. Go ahead, Mayor.
So again, with this one, just a little bit of history. When the community care organization was using the old Brighton Public Library, which is now the shoe store, they used that space pro bono when it was a municipally owned building. The municipality did not charge them rent for that purpose. When the municipality sold that building, we agreed to help them with their rent at the new building over in Prince Edward Square. So this money really hasn't gone up a whole lot over the course of the last many years, has it? Why are you laughing?
My apologies.
You don't like my history lesson? I have nothing else to say. I just
Tornado affected or? Yeah. Okay. All right, so anyone have any questions regarding this? Go ahead, Council Paredes.
To the chair, thank you. I guess it would help if I had a little better understanding and idea of what community care is using these funds for here in Brighton. Because again, we're looking at a multi-million-dollar organization. looking to us for some fundings, and I'd just like some better assurance that the funding is used here in Brighton for something. And I can't seem to get that sense from this application.
The mayor has something here. Go ahead.
I believe they use this money to supplement their rent at Prince Edward Square almost entirely. That's the purpose of it, so that we can continue to have a community care satellite right here in Brighton. I do fear that if we weren't doing this, that they would take the opportunity maybe to locate elsewhere, continue to serve the community, but without the satellite location. And I would be concerned that that service level then would not be as robust as it is in the community, and they do good work in the community.
They're very active with programs. Even now, you see new stuff, new things coming out all the time from them. So, I know, I think they're providing a service that's really needed by this community. So, go ahead, Councilor Freitas. No,
I don't doubt that they provide a great service. I guess maybe what their application should be saying, rather than subsidizing rent, that they're using it for programs like Meals on Wheels and that sort of stuff.
That's what they asked.
Okay.
Yeah, Meals
Okay,
on
so
Wheels.
it's not a rent thing. All right. Thank you.
Councilor Butwell, you had a question.
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay. Councilor Wright answered it. Good. Go ahead, Emily.
As we were talking previous about ridership with Quinte Transit, I would be curious as to what ridership community care provides, and see if there either is an overlap, or if we would be maybe, I don't know if we're stuck into some kind of MOU with Quinte Transit. We might not be, but would it be wise for us to focus more on our local residents to help out with a bit more of a transportation concern? Because I know they've had a lack of drivers as well for whatever. I don't think the numbers are down. I think it's getting the volunteer drivers. And that might be a cost thing too, for drivers, for volunteers. So it might be wise to maybe see if we can get a sense of what their ridership is, and how we can maybe move a little bit from Quinte to here, have it more local.
I'm two different topics. I think public transit is one thing, and then this is a service that's, they're both needed. I know they're both transportation, but they're both. Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you. I would say that Councilor Rowley's fairly accurate, that there is especially with regard to the accessibility portion of the Quinte Transit, Quinte Transit's service, there is a fairly significant overlap. The difference is where you're riding to. In Northumberland, if you're riding in Northumberland, within Northumberland, you would use an organization like Community Care for that accessibility transportation. But if you're going to Trenton or Belleville, you would use Quinte Transit, because there's that wall. Somehow everyone thinks there's a wall, right? There's not, but you know what I mean. But I would be curious about ridership service levels. I wouldn't mind if Community Care came and provided us with a little deeper explanation. I don't think we should yank the number out of the budget. Let's put the number in the budget, but let's get some background information.
Yeah, I don't say that we change anything, but maybe it's something that we look towards in the future as well, right? I mean, we're looking after our own local residents who probably could maybe benefit from this more.
Anyone else? Okay, so I'll leave that at the $5,000 level and move on to Brighton Auxiliary Rescue Unit loan forgiveness. Someone want to, Linda, do you want to bring us up to date on that?
So last year, there was a request for loan forgiveness. There wasn't in this year's request. And I just wanted to say the next line is actually their funds plus the boat slip. The funds they've requested are $1,500, and then the remainder is the boat slip. I think I was counting all of it as money in the prior 2 years, but we didn't give them that money. So it looks like we're comparing apples and oranges, but it's actually the same thing.
So 15,000. 1,500, I mean, sorry. Okay. Anyone else want to just? We're looking for volunteers, anybody? No. Anyhow, that's it. I'll accept that tonight. And we'll move on to the Pine Ridge Retriever Club. They're looking for the same as they have in the past, $1,000.
I'm
Go
just pleased that they've got their application in on time this year.
Yeah.
They're usually 6 months behind or just before they have their big trials, they're coming looking for money. So it's kind of nice to see that they've met a deadline for a change.
You know, it's a wonderful group. Those trials are a lot of fun to go see. No, I just, for those that don't, yeah. Okay, the next item then, I'm gonna tick it off. The next item is the Brighton Lawn Bowling and Croquet Club. $5,000. Any questions there, Emily?
Linda, is this a new request? Have we seen anything from the lawn bowling before?
Not that I'm aware of. I do know that they're affiliated somehow with the Brighton and District Carpet Bowling Club, which is the carpet bowling takes place in the community center.
Yeah.
And then the lawn bowling is over there by Proctor Park, but I think they're affiliated together. And last year there was a grant given to the Carpet Bowling Club. And so this year they've both requested.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if I read it in the right place, but they were talking about getting some certain type of balls because they want to start a youth program or something. Was that? That might, I'm just going from memory.
The grant request says remediation of lawn bowling and croquet lawn,
Oh, the lawn.
which is right in the middle of town. I think it provides some benefit to all of us if that's kept up well.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I don't know that there's still an affiliation. I think the same people were once upon a time running both carpet and lawn. I don't think that's true anymore, and I do think they're they're separate individuals and a separate group as well. I think. I don't know either, actually.
Anyone else with questions on the lawn bowling? No? Okay, taking it off as an okay. Brighton and District Carpet Bowling Club. Yeah, they are looking for well, last year they asked for some funds that is mostly to do with the carpet, I believe. And this year they're asking for $4,380. 4,003, sorry. Excuse my glasses. Go ahead, Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So their request was for $4,380. In their application package, they were looking for 4 sets of balls at $730 each, which actually brings us to $2,980, I believe. 2,900, pardon me. 6 sets? Of 4 balls each. 14.
And the club
Okay,
seems to be
sorry.
growing because of the new of the new carpet.
I don't know where I read 4.
It's a 4 balls per set. I think that's where you're getting 4.
Emily, thank you very much for that. Emily's our accountant. I guess no one else has any more comments on that. So I'm gonna tick that off as an okay. Okay, I think they're good people to take care of. So Brighton's stockings and sacks for seniors. We know who these people are. Anybody have any questions? No? Okay, I think last year sometime they did ask for 1,000, I think. They were late. They didn't, there was something that we did late. Yes, it was for space then, and also they've lost support in their previous donors apparently. So we're topping up the donorship, but we're also assisting with them renting space or getting space for storing all their stocking items that they, but sounds like it's a great project they do. Is everybody okay with the 2,000 or? Okay, I'm getting nods, yes. And the next item is a gift for the heart, from the Hearts, excuse me. They haven't asked in the last couple of years, or they're fairly new anyhow, I believe. This year they're asking for $20,000, and I think that's got to do with their new wheels. They have an X-ray machine they're working on and a large unit. Anyway, everybody, how do you feel about that? Go ahead, Jeff.
This is what they brought the delegation for a
That's
few
right.
months back. Yeah. Looks like a great program.
I'm gonna let the mayor go first. Go ahead, Mayor.
Refer to Councillor Butwell.
Councillor Butwell.
We're all getting a bit silly, I think. So this was the delegation that we heard from a few weeks ago. I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed the delegation. I think that oral health as the root of overall health is something that we don't take seriously enough. And I think that that having a mobile unit that can go into our communities to service people who are possibly not receiving services at all, and to do it at a no or low cost is a great way to spend some dollars in our community.
Okay, this is a nonprofit organization, and I think they're based now out of Loyal's College, supports them with facilities to park their vehicles and hook them up. And that X-ray machine, by the way, is worth over $100,000. So the vehicle is one thing, the trailer, whatever they're using. I think we're going to see it pretty soon if they get the funding moving along quick. And Mayor, now you had something.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you, I agree. It's a good opportunity. Oral health is incredibly important. Much of this is done through much of the initial hygienic work it can be accessed through the health unit, which we already fund through our tax dollars. And I just remind council that the County of Northumberland and the County of Hastings have all donated used ambulances to this organization as well. Those are monies that we did not then receive back through Gov Deals by selling an ambulance. So, these are all things that we have already donated through our tax base to this organization. And I believe we have also agreed to help them find a space and electricity in our community. So also good information. I guess I'm just concerned, first year ask, and it's almost as much as we give to the hospital. And that's just a bit concerning to me.
I agree.
But
and
it's still healthcare.
I agree. So let's put it in the healthcare section. So we know what we're actually budgeting for healthcare year over year, because it's not $36,000 or $33,000. It'll be $53,000 this year if we agree to the gift for the heart donation.
Put it under healthcare then.
Okay, we'll do that. Okay, so that okay, so we will total that section and do. I don't know if you want to do that now, but we can move right into the hospitals and the medical. Go
Good
ahead.
question. So the last line says set aside for future request. Is this the line item where our Chamber of Commerce request would fall under, or are they an external board and agency?
Director, sorry, Dip.
I'm a director now too. Anyhow, I understand that it's a project that they're asking us to support. They're not asking us for gift in kind or anything like that. They're asking for us to support a tourism project meeting. Well, I don't, personally, I think it should come from our economic development tourism budget, but that's my opinion. Because it's a project, it's something we're going to be helping manage, working with them. And it's not something we don't manage any of these. We ask them to be accountable to us, but we don't manage any of these. So that's my opinion. That I was going to bring it up at operations, because it'll be in the operations budget. Does that sound okay, Linda and others?
That is correct, Deputy Mayor. Ben will be bringing that forward in his budget. It's not currently in the budget, but he'll be bringing that forward as a new service agreement with the Chamber of Commerce. So they're actually providing a service for that money. And so there will be an agreement. It will be handled differently than grants and aid.
We'll put it there, but we still need to debate on it and decide whether we want to do it. So, okay. And keeping our mind, our total, what we want to do in our total budget, that might be a factor.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay. So let's get into the hospitals if they're open. And we've moved the gift from the heart to there, and it's already, so assume that it's there. And we'll start with Campbellford Memorial Hospital. 0 this year.
May I, Deputy Mayor, just to also add a little bit of history to this one?
Yeah.
The municipality used to give to both Trent Memorial Hospital and Campbellford Memorial Hospital directly. Northumberland Hills Hospital and Campbellford Memorial Hospital directly. I apologize. Last year, these two groups came as one request to Northumberland County. Northumberland County now donates a significantly larger portion than what we used to through the municipality to these two organizations for the purpose of saving money for a new MIS system, massive communication between both hospitals and I think Peterborough Regional Health Services. So we agreed to do the county agreed to do this under the condition that they would not then come to the local lower tier municipality and ask for the same, a double dip, if you will. So that's why they are no longer on our local municipal budgets. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, I saw that on their budget line. Exactly what you explained. That's good. Someone else had no? Okay. So we're talking about, we don't need to talk about them. There's a 0 there. University Hospitals Kingston Foundation. You heard them tonight. And Emily, go ahead.
And I know the number that that Abby brought up was, or not Abby, right? No, it was Wendy, was a little higher. So we're looking at $21,703. I would like to, I would be supportive of changing our 20,000 to 21,703.
University.
Oh, shucks.
She's jumped down one.
Hey, you jumping up there. Holy man. The hospital's not far away. All right. University Hospital, they're asking for $12,500. Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, through you. So last year they came to us asking for this money in support of their new hospital build. We heard tonight that that's not going to happen, at least not for the foreseeable future. I am supportive of the University Hospitals of Kingston and their foundation and all that they do in Kingston. Certainly have had family and friends have to undergo treatments in Kingston, and I know that they are in as much need as everywhere else. But when we consider our own needs, I guess a little closer to home, I'm wondering if the original ask for a new hospital build versus what they're asking for now, which is essentially equipment replacement, under the caveat that they move it into a future new hospital. I guess I'm wondering if really they're just asking us to bookmark 12.5 forever and ever until such time as they find land and actually figure out what they're doing for a new hospital.
I think it's something that if we're going to need to groom something here, so this is an area that we could probably look at. I don't know what amount or anything like that, but I agree with you there. Go ahead, Councillor Paredes.
To the chair, thank you. I guess I have a slightly different view. I mean, I'm concerned about the long-term booking. But as I recall the presentation, they currently service 1,800 Brighton residents. It is a very significant facility relative to cancer treatment. Having gone through that experience with a spouse, I can assure you how vital it is to have something close by to attend to that sort of situation. So I would tend to support this request.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And I'm certainly willing to go along if that's what council wants to do, but I would remind everyone that if we agree to this, don't be surprised if the Peterborough Regional Health Foundation comes and the Belleville General Hospital does not come to Brighton. Their health foundation doesn't come to Brighton, and yet even more significantly, we use their services. Lakeshore Regional Health Foundation, Princess Margaret. I mean, these are all hospitals with foundations that Brightonians use for specialized services. And like I said, when it was an ask for funding for a new hospital, state-of-the-art facilities, I think we were like, oh wow, that's $12,500, pretty cheap to help them get there. That's off the table today. So it's just.
And they were fine with that. Excuse me for interrupting, but when we came up with that number,
They came up with that number.
Yeah.
That's why we felt that it was a good.
They were fine
it was
with
a-
that
it was
for a new
pretty good
build.
investment for our community.
So.
But now that deal is off the table. So I get it. I absolutely get it. We've got lots of people who go to Kingston, Belleville, Peterborough, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And yet this is the only one coming and asking for help with the exception of our very local hospital.
If I can just, I'm just going to drop down and look at the Trenton Memorial Hospital. You heard tonight also, it's some of the things that they're doing now are getting equipment and that like she talked about dialysis and she talked about testings and all these things that we've been asking for, right? So you'll be able to go to Quinte West to get some of these things instead of going to Belleville or Kingston too. I don't know the magnitude of it, but it is growing and the services are growing in Quinte West. I look at Quinte West as a very positive to us because we work with them and they're just down and they're in our backyard, to use an expression. So Kingston, that number was number of visits. You look at this, it wasn't necessarily a number of residents, it was a number of visits. So I'm sure that's what it says in here. So, and then there was like 120 surgeries. I was surprised at that low number, but 150. That's pretty low for a year. I know people that go for surgery there, but so they're talking about Brighton and individual visits. They're not talking. I don't think they were talking about how many residents. That sounds like how many that doctor would have that many patients. So something to think about. I'm sorry that the government is slowing down on a lot of services that as far and getting the building they do need a new building. I've been there, I've seen it. And but they, like she said, their equipment's getting old too. So I'm going to go to Councillor Wright here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to point out the numbers that were specific to Brighton that she mentioned. So 727 unique patients, including the NICU babies, excuse me. The over 1,800 annual visits, 150 surgical procedures, 280 outpatient visits, 1,000 cancer treatment visits, and 82 patients transferred from surrounding hospitals. Given how stretched all of our hospitals are right now, while this might, down the road become a continued ask, and we may see other hospitals come to us at some point, we can make those decisions at that point. Right now, this hospital, like these are fairly significant numbers when you consider the space of that they're drawing, the geographical area that they're drawing from. And these are just numbers from Brighton. So you can anticipate that they're doing much bigger numbers and are stretched pretty thin. So 12,005 seems like a very small ask from Kingston to take care of 1,000 cancer treatments for Brightonians.
Go ahead, Jeff. You've got a question?
I just want to say that I agree with that. Thank you, Councillor Wright. But also that with the provinces sitting down with the federal government asking for more federal money for healthcare, I think the fact that we are still sitting here talking about how much we can support local hospitals is worthy of note to Mr. Pecuniary.
Anyone else with any questions? No, one good thing though, like those are impressive numbers with the cancer in particular. To go set a bone or something, we'll go to Belleville for that or Trenton for that. But when you're talking cancer, 1,000 patients, that could be 1,000 immediate lives, and it's pretty hard to wrap that around in our heads to even think about the amount of money that we could do. But I'll leave it on the list unless somebody else has anything else to say about it. We're gonna, and again, when we get to the full picture, it may have to come up again. So, all right. So I'm gonna leave that. Where was I? Universe. We'll just slip into the Trenton Hospital. I spoke about it a little bit, but they're asking for 23,434. Oh,
You didn't pay attention to me. 21,703. She changed the number.
oh,
Wendy did.
well, that's
if I
why.
remember.
Okay,
So I am supportive of cranking it to
sorry.
21,703.
703. I didn't write it down. Thank you. Mary, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I know our upset limit is $20,000 on these grants and aid requests, but I think that policy was set back when 1.5% was significantly less than $154,000. So maybe we need to revisit that policy and make it a percentage of the overall ask rather than a set dollar figure. I think the intention back in the day was laudable, 20 grand when we were looking at $100,000 in grants and aid or whatever that number was. But now that we're at 154, maybe we need to just take a good look at that policy. And I guess once we're done budget and you come up for air, Director, you could bring that policy back to us. Thank you.
Okay, so we added a little bit to the hospitals there, but I think we're finished with that. And Northumberland Hills is the same reason it's a zero, is exactly what the mayor was talking about, right? Okay, as far as, go ahead, Linda, we'll let Linda. jump in.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor, it appears that you've skipped through community policing. At least I didn't hear a discussion.
Skipped in where? Oh, yeah, sorry. Well, I was saving that for later. All right, well, let's go back to that. So we finished the hospitals. Huh? Well, I was counting on you. Anyhow, community policing request is gone up a little bit. They've done some, let's find out what they're gonna do with the $8,000.
Through you, Chair. They're using it for their distracted driving simulator at ENSS.
Okay, they have that already. We did, that was part of a large fundraising a while back. I think what you wanted for is programs, and they were going to do this before anyhow. They would run programs through the school, and they were doing it just before COVID hit, right after they launched that, I believe. Those that remember, I was at the launch for that, and it's a fantastic unit. It's that computerized, try driving it and they'll set it up so you, if you're impaired or whatever. And
I did want to point out that I think it's of note that the OPP, when they talked to us about how their overall ticket revenues are down so much in Northumberland County, they said it was in large part because of education programs and things like that. So I think it's of value to us to continue supporting that, even if it means lower revenues.
I know don't open a can tonight. Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you. If you go to page 9 of the budget request for community policing, it provides their overall budget, of which they show an $8,500 shortfall and are requesting $8,000 from the municipality. So the funding would be for insurance, essentially insurance, rent for the storage unit, the distracted driver initiative, as Councillor Wielden pointed out, bicycle safety materials, the trailer in which the distracted driving vehicle goes. They need to retrofit that. That's a significant cost of $2,400. Software upgrades. My recollection is that the original software came from somewhere like Russia. And of course, I don't know if anyone knows, but we're having some issues with our friends in Russia right now. So I don't think we're able to borrow or use their upgrades. And I think they're trying to find they found a more local, less Russian firm to do those upgrades. So I think that's where that $800 is coming from. And of course, they need a generator to run all of this stuff when they are off site. And they're looking for a couple uniforms as well for community policing. So that's where the $8,000 will go, is to help with that $10,500 budget.
It sounds reasonable. It's all, that's a great unit. And if they get it around to more schools, more people, and people should even have to get pulled over, should be sent there to try it out. So, but it's something it's great. So you got to see it sometime. Go, you had something?
Yeah, I'm supportive of a group like this too. They're fairly enthusiastic about things. We used to have a space in town. They used to have, they used to have their own office. They were much more visible, and now they have to do all of this behind the scenes. So $8,000, I think, is pretty cheap for the service we get back.
Did I see you, Jeff, moving? No.
I think they need 3 uniforms because they may have dwindled down to 3 volunteers, quite frankly. So if there's something we can do to help bolster those numbers too, because they are capable of doing really good work. If they have the team that they used to have back, 15 years ago, there were almost 50 of them helping distribute pamphlets for the OPP. They would help with the lock it or lose it programs. They did a lot of good work in the community, rail safety programs, etc.
They help with parades and things like that. Like in other communities, they did here at one time, but in communities they do that too. So it's almost like be nice to have an auxiliary here too. That's another topic. Okay, so I did find that. So I'm going to go to the cemeteries now. That all sound good? Okay, we'll go through that. Hilton Cemetery, Trinity St. Andrews United, and they're asking for $4,000. And I don't. Yeah, it's pretty well mostly maintenance and equipment that they need money for these groups. So anyone have any comments on any of these? We can go one by one. Hilton. I'll just say Codrington. You got something?
No, I would just like to say in general, when you drive through the municipality and we look at the cemeteries that we have, it's nice to see that they're all very well maintained and well kept. If you drive through, I just want to say through some of the cemeteries that are neighbors to the east, haven't had grass cut for years. So I think it's nice to see it's minimal, but it's nice when you drive around that they are all well maintained.
I know there's good people doing the work on them, so I know a bunch of them, so it's good. Yeah. Again, I'll just go down the list because there's some people who want to buy some equipment, some people, Codrington Cemetery, $3,000. It's the same. It's pretty consistent what they do. Anyhow, Carmen Cemetery. There's one that's up. Anybody want to look at that for a second? It's up to 5,000 from 4,000 and 3,000. Anybody have it there? No. Okay. All good, I guess. Okay. Greenwood, 7,000. McPhail's Cemetery, 5,000. Consistent. And Mount Olivet Cemetery, if I said that right. $1,150. And so the total is 25,150 for cemeteries. Up a little bit. So our total grants and aid, do you want to jump in, Linda? I don't think we made much change in any of this, but there is a little bit.
Oh, okay. So through you, Deputy Mayor, we had one reduction that was just in the Trenton Memorial Hospital Foundation. And we have not included the line others set aside for future requests. And we are currently showing a municipal increase of 4.63% with those additions. With the county budget, I think it was passed at a 6% the other day. So with our 4.63, the blended increase is 4.61%.
Any questions? Everybody good with that before we move on? Okay. We'll go to the external budgets now. You turn your page if you, I'm using the binder.
And through you, Deputy Mayor, unlike the grants and aid, the external budgets are included in our budget package already. The numbers are already included in the budget.
Oh, okay, so we're not changing anything. Well, they are right here, yeah. Like the library board. Is it already in there? Do we need to review that? Go ahead, Mary.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So there's a few of these that we can chat about, but we really have no control over at the end of the day.
Okay,
Police Services Board, we can, oh no, not, sorry, OPP contract, we really have no say, right? I mean, we either have OPP or we don't have OPP, and that's the cost. There's no negotiation involved. Quinny Transit, again, we're either in or out. Either we're part of this or we're not. And if we're out, then we need to decide, we need to figure out through policy where those gas tax monies go, having signed that agreement with Quinny West. So Laura Trent, same deal. We don't have really a choice. I guess we could push back a little bit, but not much choice. QEDC, again, we're either in or we're out. If we don't want to pay this, we have to decline the offer. And DBIA, that's an in and out piece of money because they tax their own organization for them for their own revenue purposes. So the only option there would be to fold the DBIA, and I don't think that would be a very good decision, quite frankly.
Being an advocate of the DBIA, I would say if you fold the DBIA, it's going to cost you a lot more money to beautify the main street as than the few dollars that are.
It doesn't cost the residential property taxpayer a dime. So yeah, 100%.
so there's only a little more than $2 million for all that. You know, it's the cost of running a good.
And 2 million of that
Yeah.
2.7 million is policing.
Policing. Yeah, exactly.
Period. So
For our contribution to policing, is there any, do we have any contribution to policing policy in Brighton?
if I may, Deputy Mayor, through you, yeah, we have a police services board that offers, sort of this much policy opportunity, whereas, in Coburg, for example, because they have their own municipal police force, they have this much. But at the end of the day, both forces are governed by the Police Services Act. Our inspector takes his marching orders from the commissioner. In Coburg, the police chief takes his marching orders from the Police Services Board, as long as it's within keeping with the Police Services Act. But so we can ask for more foot patrol hours. We can ask for more dedicated services at the high school. We do that on an ongoing basis. We monitor things like collisions in the community and dedicated enforcement opportunities in the community. Okay. For your information, for everyone's information, the County of Northumberland had a delegation with the Attorney General at Roma. Part of that delegation was partially to try to figure out why Provincial Offences Act and fines hadn't increased back to pre-COVID levels in Northumberland where it had elsewhere. As you know, we received a letter from the inspector saying, well, we're less worried about fines and more worried about education and decreasing the opportunity for collisions. That actually seems to be working in Brighton and Northumberland County. But the other request from the Attorney General was for a dedicated 401 crew, OPP crew. They have it in Durham, they have it in Quinte West, and yet the wild west of 401 across Northumberland seems to be a problem. And I think we see that fairly frequently with closures. And you don't have to drive too far on our 401 to get past, no matter how fast you're going.
If I may, we've been talking a lot about traffic calming measures and things like that. If we institute those kinds of policies and infrastructure, and are successful with them, is there any chance we'll see less of a bill from the OPP?
I would doubt it.
I guess
would
I'm
seriously.
looking for a return on that
Yeah.
investment.
So the other piece of information that everybody should be aware is back in 2007, Northumberland County did a study on amalgamating the police service across Northumberland County, a consolidated police service. It showed a fairly significant savings if we were to have one service from Port Hope to Brighton. In Brighton, I think in 07, the savings was close to $200,000 for the first 5 or 10 years. I can't remember the number, but it was in the $200,000 range. And that's, 15 years ago. So embedded in this year's county budget, at my request, was an amount of money to update that 2007 study. That opportunity didn't happen in 07. Port Hope and Coburg just weren't ready to pull that plug. They have municipal police services, and there's a significant emotional attachment to your local police force. I get it. But Port Hope is without a chief right now. Coburg is looking at a multi-million-dollar new build for a headquarters. And I just thought maybe there would be opportunity for everyone to have a moment of, can we do this now? So we're going to see if that study gets updated, and we'll see what that consolidated police force looks like in terms of dollars and cents. Back in 07, the only police force to bid was OPP.
Linda, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I have a couple of points to make on the external budgets, not just on OPP. However, the OPP is one part of the discussion. The OPP contract was not at that amount of 1.9 million. I have to find it here. There is an amount that we owe back for court security grants that were given to us in the past that we didn't use. When there's no court, there's no security. And so we owed back an amount somewhere around $34,000. So that's included in that 1.9. We also used the public safety or the policing reserve to reduce the amount of policing back down to the amount prior to the repayment of the grant. That's just to help offset that increase that we had to kind of add to the budget this year. The other thing I wanted to bring up was in the library board budget. Accidentally on the schedule, I've got the 2022 amount, but the correct amount is in the budget. The library is their budget. They're asking for, I'm just scrolling there. They're asking for $505,128 plus their transfer from development charges. So the total is $534,635. And included in that is that transfer of the Brighton Digital Archives to the library, which is a report that we have to discuss this evening. And I think that it may be a segue into that report at this point, so that this committee of the whole and then council will be aware of the increase that that group is requesting in the 2023 budget. And that may be a point of your discussion if you're looking for ways to reduce the budget, because I'm not sure what the ask is about, but I know it was 97% increase.
It's
Linda,
in
could
this
you
report.
repeat-
They're asking for, I don't
Linda?
want to mention the number in case I'm.
Could you please repeat what the total ask for the library board is? I didn't write it down.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, $505,128.
And that 505, if I may, Deputy Mayor, that includes the BDA? Thank you.
Is that Linda? Did you want to move ahead?
So there was a report on the agenda this evening.
I have it here, yes.
Yes.
It's a report, Brighton Digital Archives Committee disbandment agreement. Right? You're going to discuss that with Candace, I believe. You want to go ahead? Discuss that report?
So the report was actually written quite a while ago by Candace and with my assistance. So Marina, prior to her going off on leave, had been negotiating or trying to find the right fit for the Brighton Digital Archives because they weren't really fitting into a committee of council model. Thank you. And I'll always ask you for words, Mayor. Thank you. So what we were having the issue with was the way they wanted to purchase items. Couldn't always follow our procurement policies, couldn't always follow some of our requirements for proper meeting procedures. There were several things that we had brought to council's attention probably 2 years ago at this point. It was well over a year ago. They do great work for the community. Nobody is disputing that at all. They just didn't fit into a committee of council model. So Marina had some discussions with the library board about perhaps they fit in better there. The library is into archiving. That's sort of what they do anyway. And so maybe it was a better fit. So at that point, Brighton Digital Archives was really anxious to do so. But we couldn't get it in front of council before it was lame duck last spring and fall, or summer and fall, sorry. So what we did was we held back until this process with budget for the committee to see what was going on and what their ask was. So last year, or in prior years, I just have to find them here in the budget, they were requesting, I think they're under 800s. Sorry, I'm going to just scroll down there for a sec. They were receiving honorariums and payroll taxes, and those items will not be included in their budget now because the library board doesn't pay their board members and they don't pay their subcommittee members either. So last year, their budget, net budget request was $11,505, which included $3,000. I don't have the report in front of me. I apologize, but it's including $3,770. So if we remove that, we're down around $700 or 7,000 and something, and they're now requesting, and Candace, you'll have to help me, 13,000. So if everybody has the report in front of them, I do not. Yeah, and so that in my calculation is around a 97% increase.
Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm going to speak to both the library in general and the BDA, just because I am. For 500 grand, we have probably one of the top shelf libraries in the greater Quinte, Northumberland region. I can't think of a better organization. Coburg pays over $1 million for their library on an annualized basis, with significantly more management staff, less actual boots on the ground, and very little acquisitions. And Brighton, we have a superb library with a well-run staff, great customer service. These guys are second to none, and acquisitions like crazy. So they're doing a great job on the resources that they're given. For 500 grand, I can't think of a better investment in our community than this library and its small satellite in Codrington. With regard to BDA, to echo the director, they do great work in the community. So to see them want to reinvest their stipends back into equipment purchases or whatever other acquisitions they need to do, plus a little bit extra, I think $13,700 to collect that archival material in a digitized form is cheap. Oh my gosh, it's so cheap. When I think of what it costs to digitize things these days, that is, it's a pretty good investment for the history of our community. So I am totally supportive of an overall $505,128 Brighton Public Library Board budget.
So this amount's combined with total. Go ahead.
And I couldn't have said it any better.
Well, you haven't heard Jeff yet. Go ahead, Jeff.
I wholeheartedly agree. With regard to the volunteers at the Brighton Digital Archives, I know that these are people who volunteer a lot of their time in Brighton, and they are wise about where they volunteer it. And so the fact that they pour as much as they do into BDA should be an indication of its value in the community.
So with that, what's that? So just, okay, I think we were at the end of the budget anyhow, weren't we? It is just, go ahead.
One more question. We received a letter and I wondered if that needs to be part of our grants and aid, since how we've glossed over that now with the request from Smithfield.
Oh, yes, sorry, missed that. Thank you. You wanna, you're very up to date on, I'm a little bit, but you're better. Well, I can touch on it. School grounds make a lovely park for kids. A lot of kids in Smithfield now. It's growing just like anybody else, but families are popping up, and the school has been a long time since they've been able to be given it any attention as far as for the kids. Yes, capital and bricks and blocks and has been done, but now the group is focusing on turning it into a parkland setting and as such, but a usable setting. I won't go into all the details, but over time, I don't know what length of time. Projected cost is 250,000. They have big sites, but they are getting started and they're moving slowly. They're collecting I don't know, but there's sandboxes and there's shade and there's trees and lots of trees. Actually, they're going greener than Smithfield is already, and so their plan is to move ahead. I think they're looking for, this doesn't say $50,000. They're projected-
their projects this year will cost 50 grand. I don't
Yeah.
think they're asking.
No,
the
no, they're not
municipality.
asking. The project is 50,000. But maybe I'm trying to help them out too much. No.
I agree though.
No,
Deputy
it's
Mayor.
but part of the situation is, do they qualify for this ask within our, and I like them.
Community, I mean, this is, as you know, too, you live in Smithfield, you live in their back door. And how many times have we spoken about the fact that Smithfield has no green space as well, and the school property is accessible, and I know there's always issues, but we use our school property here as well. And it's nice to see something being offered, not only for the kids, their safe playground equipment, because they've had to shut most of their playground equipment down. Some of their new equipment that's all going green, they have willow structures and things moving on there. So it's nice to see something happen out there. And yes, they've got a great group focused on an awesome project.
Well, it's that youthful attitude of the families and that out there that are having committees and getting going on things and making things happen. And that's what drives the community, and Little Smithfield's now starting to, and with the homes that are coming out there right now, they're bringing families, we're bringing kids, and we've got crossing guards now and things like that. No, you want to paint a picture of a community. That's what happened.
Not
What's
yet.
that?
Not yet.
I haven't talked about your street.
Can't afford
tonight.
Yeah.
And it's working so far. Anyhow, Mary, you've got something.
This does not, thank you, Deputy Mayor. This does not fit in our policy. Absolutely not.
That's where I was
Unfortunately,
driving
it just
there.
doesn't,
Yeah.
it just doesn't work. But we have helped fund school projects before. Always on the condition that the municipality has use of those spaces after hours and during the summers. So I am happy to go back to this organization, these fundraisers, not me personally. I'm happy for council to go back and say, okay, what is your need this year? But we need your help, parents, to get the school board on side, signing an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with the municipality, that our community will have use of that playground after hours and during the summertime, just like we do with the Thompson Todd track and sports field. I knew I'd get there. Thank you. And that has worked very well. The community does use that. Our minor soccer club does use that. And during the pandemic, although they did shutter it, the school board did shutter it because they ordered all facilities shuttered. I made one phone call and reminded them of our MOU, and it was open the next day. They were incredibly responsive in conditions when they didn't have to be. And we directed people to that track for exercise when they were otherwise shuttered in their homes. So I'm happy to help them, but for sure, we need to make sure we have access to it after hours and during the summers.
So how do we start that off then?
Well, I think a phone call to Ms. Perrin and Ms. Zavitz would be a good first step, and maybe circle the school principal into that conversation.
It's similar also to, you mentioned about the track, but people have even recently asked, can we go walking at the high school? They've opened that up again where you can go and walking inside. So people have been asking all week about that. Also, they're allowing indoor basketball for kids basically off the street in the evening or after school, more so than they did before. So they're opening up. I don't know if there's any agreements going on, but the facilities are great and aren't being used. And we got a community that's hungry at the bit for recreation and definitely outdoors. So if the school can be a little bit cooperative on that, and the Board of Education is the one that we need to convince here.
We'll worry about the board.
All right. I don't think we have a problem with the committee or the school itself, but
We have a pretty good relationship with the Board of Education. I don't know why we couldn't just sign another piece of paper.
I don't see an issue with an MOU. It really is just a matter of getting the right wording in, and
yeah, and I think we
unfortunately letting the lawyers look at it.
It's an out of the way school too, that it's not urban school. That type of thing. Okay. So I wrap up this portion of the,
Well, is it council's wish for me to reach out to these two? Is that council's wish? I will do
Yeah.
that. I will, maybe not this week, but I will do it as soon as possible.
that'll be nice.
We didn't put a number in there, but maybe we should. Let's do outreach first.
That's right. That's good. Good. No sense,
Is that what you were gonna say? I'm sorry.
That's okay. I didn't have my hand up. I was just going to say, let them come to us with.
and we'll make sure of that. Okay, so how about I wrap up the, is there anything else on that you want to address tonight or?
Motion to pass for this? No, we just carry on.
Yeah, so I have a motion here as we were discussing the Brighton Digital Archives in the library. I have a motion from Bobby, right, and Jeff Weldon, Bobby's moved it and Jeff seconded it. That the committee of the whole received staff report regarding Brighton Digital Archives disbandment from the committee of council. And entering into an agreement with the Brighton Public Library as a subcommittee, and that committee of the whole recommend to council to approve the agreement between the Corporation of Municipality Brighton, Brighton Public Library, and the Brighton Digital Archives. May I have a motion I mentioned, and I have a show of hands, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So I think that was the last item on my list. Question period? No, nobody's got any questions. Any questions from the, oh, hello.
I have a question in regards to the beacon in grants and aids. Considering that there's been so many different organizations, you're asking for numbers, riderships, blah, blah, blah. First and foremost, Mayor Ostrander, did you not say they had a surplus that you were going to look into? Which was how much?
I don't know.
15,000 or was it 100? Okay. So anyway, back in 2021, they in 2022 at the budget meeting, you may remember, Deputy Mayor, when the chairperson spoke, they didn't use the grant from 2021 because they were closed from COVID, due to COVID. Now it was just posted. They have cut their hours back. So they're asking for more money. However, they're only open Tuesdays and Thursdays lunch at 11 noon. They used to have 2 lunch periods, one for the public and one for ENSS. We all know where ENSS kids are at lunchtime. Now in the evenings, it's only Monday, Wednesday, and Thursdays now at 6:30, but nobody showed up Monday night. I spoke to one of the volunteers that has been there from day one from our church. They're still getting support from the 5 churches. And what's happening is the kids are not coming. They are not coming, and they're hoping, they're crossing their fingers that they will come back. These kids, when they come for lunch, they have to sign in. So it's very easy to get a report from the Beacon as to how many kids are actually coming and how many, say, as opposed to 2 years ago or pre-pandemic, how many kids they were getting and how many they're getting now. So I think it's only fair what we're doing for other organizations that we do that for this one as well. You know, God forbid, like I hate seeing these kids on the streets. They did their best for years to try to help these kids and they're just not going. And I don't know what the answer is to help them. I mean, the corner stores, like they only allow 2 kids in at a time. Like it's just, I mean, you see them down there. You see the police down there all the time. And it's just, I don't know what the answer is. They've tried. And Wi-Fi and video games, I guess that's what it's at, you know. So I'm hoping that we could not only get the answers of exactly what the surplus is and why, but the numbers of how many kids are actually coming. And like I do know they do get donations for lunches and stuff like that, because most of the churches, ours including, if we have a funeral, all the sandwiches go to the Beacon. I went there on the Monday, there was nobody there. we had a funeral. I took them all over to the fire hall. I gave them to the guys there. So, there was nobody. So it's just, I think it's worthwhile looking into just to keep our tax dollars down, because we know that you all have a tough job ahead of you to try to keep Brighton happy with what our tax increase is going to be, and I wish you luck. So hopefully you can get those numbers too. Okay. Thanks very much. Have a good night.
All right, with that, let's call it an evening, and we'll be back again soon, and yeah, it's at 8:35. Okay.